We will now start the special and adjourned meeting, and in compliance with the city's sunshine policy, I'd like to first call for a vote to start the special meeting. So I will entertain a motion at this time to commence the special meeting. Motion and second. Any comment? All right, please vote. Okay, that vote passes. So we'll move on with the staff presentation at this time. Oh, he's not here. Yeah, okay.
He's there.
He's he's present, but we have 9 votes. Okay. That should be sufficient. Is that right?
That is.
Okay, great. We'll proceed then with staff presentation, and if any members of the community would like to speak, please fill out a yellow card. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Rosalind Huey, Acting Director for the Department of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. This morning, we want just to take a brief opportunity to walk you through some slides that primarily focuses on what the potential measure does and where it actually applies here in the city of San Jose. So first, we just want to reiterate that the potential measure aligns with the major strategies of the general plan, and it supports our urban growth boundary where the city has decided to limit sprawl throughout the city. And this was actually carried through during our recent 4-year review of the general plan. The potential measure preserves employment land and employment capacity in the city and supports the city's goal to be a fiscally strong city. The measure requires that an impact study to be considered by the City Council when making any decisions on applications to change property from employment use. And it requires 2 components of this impact study. First, it requires a fiscal analysis, and then secondly, an analysis of the jobs to employed residents. So for several years, there has been several bodies of work documenting the city's very low jobs to employment resident ratio. This slide actually shows the most recent comparable data. It's actually from the U.S. Census 2015 American Community Survey. And here you see how San Jose stacks up with the top 20 cities in the country. We come out actually with the lowest jobs to employed resident ratio at 0.85. And currently our staff, we are updating the numbers and we have more recent data that actually indicates our current ratio is hovering around 0.80. So the measure also obviously ensures compliance with CEQA, and if there is any adverse impact indicated in the conducted impact study, the council cannot approve the application unless the benefits of the proposed application outweighs the specified impact. So, council approval of a conversion requires the following conditions. First, it has to comply, an application has to comply with all of the inclusionary housing requirements. And in addition, for sale residential projects must provide 50% of the units as affordable to moderate incomes. And secondly, rental projects must provide 35% of the units affordable at moderate rates and 20% affordable to very low incomes. The application must comply with all laws related to design and construction, including building energy efficiency and zero net energy. An application must use recycled water for all landscaping if it is available. And the application must provide support services, such as a shuttle service to serve the new population. So where does the measure apply? So the measure applies to all parcels located within 1 mile of the urban growth boundary in the following planning areas: in Evergreen, Coyote, San Felipe, Almaden, and Calero. The measure applies to land with the general plan employment land use designation, and applies to property with 5 acres or plus in size. So here is a map of the planning areas affected. You'll see the 5 identified. The green line indicates the city's urban growth boundary, and then the hatched area indicates the parcels that would be affected. So we want to be clear that the measure does not apply to lands within the general plan land use designation of public, quasi-public, or agriculture, or conversion of employment lands to public parks, public trails, public open space, and other public uses. So other provisions in the measure include that the measure prevails over conflicting or inconsistent provisions in the charter, ordinances, resolutions, or other enactments, including other initiatives adopted on or after the effective date of the proposed measure. The council is authorized to implement the measure with ordinances and resolutions, and that the measure would sunset after 20 years. And lastly, we just want to iterate that placement of the act on the ballot in itself will not cause any direct or foreseeable indirect physical changes to the environment. There are no changes to the general plan land use designations in the act, and no review is required per CEQA guidelines 15061B3. And also would just like to reiterate that future conversion proposals, so any applications that come to the city obviously would be subject to CEQA review. And with that, staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. I know that we have members of the community who are here, so I'll ask them to speak at this time, and then we'll come back for questions and comments. Sean Welch, followed by Brian Schmidt, Robert Reese, and Steve Bennette. Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. Sean Welch, legal counsel for San Jose residents for Evergreen Senior Homes. As we made clear at the council meeting on Tuesday, this proposed action is both irresponsible and illegal. If it is approved today, we will initiate litigation in order to protect the initiative rights of the voters and to protect honest and open government. The memo by Councilmember Rocha is 100% correct. The proposed charter amendment, which was developed by the mayor in secret and only provided to the public at the very last minute, is full of unknowns, unknown impacts, unknown consequences. Even the mayor himself, when the text of the countermeasure was first made public 48 hours ago, pointed out a drafting error that he said would have unintended impacts on open space. How many more errors and unintended consequences are there? To be clear, we're not saying that the council cannot consider ballot proposals in the future. What we are saying is that the initiative right, as reserved for the people in the California Constitution and in the San Jose City Charter, grants voters the right to have an unencumbered vote on an issue free from council interference. Let the people have their up or down vote on the Evergreen Senior Homes Initiative in June. If the council takes issue with the results, so be it. As Councilmember Rocha has pointed out, then at least there will be plenty of time for study and analysis. But doing something of this magnitude in the absence of transparency, on extremely short notice, and without the benefit of any analysis or meaningful public participation would redefine irresponsibility. Doing something of this magnitude in order to thwart the initiative rights of voters in direct violation of the city charter would redefine impropriety. We urge the council to avoid doing both. Please reject this deeply flawed and illegal countermeasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt?
Good morning, Brian Schmidt, Program Director for Greenbelt Alliance. I need to preface my comments by saying that regarding support for initiative measures, such decisions are made by our organization, by our board of directors, not by staff. You'll find the same thing is true, I think, with almost all the other environmental organizations. They need to take these measures to their board for final consideration. Having said that, the staff analysis of this measure finds it falling within the purview and lines of the type of initiative measures that we are likely to support, in large part because this is so supportive of the general plan, which Greenbelt Alliance was involved with both in the 2016 update and the 2011 general revision. This supports those environmentally protective portions of those plans and would be part of the analysis that we would take to our board of directors. I do want to address comments by representatives of the developers, both on Tuesday and just now, about the perceived lack of transparency, because I think those comments are best directed towards their own initiative. Our organization did not find out about what they were proposing until the language was final, submitted to the clerk. There was no chance they have any type of involvement in change of what they had. What has gone on right now, this is the third meeting to discuss this. This is more transparent and more opportunity for providing input than occurred with the developers initiative. And for that reason, I think is one of many reasons why so many environmental organizations are opposed to their initiative. You have another letter in front of you today from many of those organizations. In addition, Spur issued a letter talking about the problem with lack of affordable housing and how this hurts affordable housing. So I think those comments regarding transparency and openness were best directed as criticisms of the developers initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Reese.
Hello, I'm an Evergreen resident, and I'm a huge fan of Envision 2040 and the urban growth strategy which emerged from the incredible process of significant community engagement which the city fostered, leading to its adoption in 2011. We can all be proud that San Jose's urban growth will now be based on the principles of environmental sustainability and fiscal sustainability, and that the nail has been hammered in the coffin of future urban sprawl in San Jose. Mayor Liccardo and Councilmember Rocha were instrumental in fashioning the new paradigm for the 2040 plan, growth and non-growth areas, which reinforces that urban development will occur in San Jose's growth areas within the sustainability model, and I appreciate your good work and collaboration in these efforts. I had the opportunity to serve on the 1980 and 1990 County General Plan Review Committees at the request of two different District 3 supervisors. The 1980 plan memorialized the guiding principles for the county that urban growth would occur within the incorporated limits of cities and not within the unincorporated areas. And this was a huge step at this time. What a mess we find ourselves in today, which threatens all the community's work for growth management over a long period of time. We must now contend with an urban sprawl model which was baited, tested in Tracy, and has found its way to San Jose for its big-time rollout. Not only do we have the issues specific to Evergreen, but we also must contend with a model which has overreach for other areas of San Jose with an illy defined concept of employment lands. The Tracy model involved unincorporated lands outside the incorporated limits of Tracy. The model utilized a low turnout special election with a 14% turnout to get around one of Tracy's growth management plans, which was adopted during a presidential election with a high turnout. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bennette?
Mayor, City Council, thank you for serving. My name's Steve Bennette, part of the District 8 Roundtable. I guess this message is for our people up there, our attorneys. Forgive me if I read. You folks keep whining about our city leaders having secret meetings and breaking the rules. You are the ones that break the rules. You expect us voters to read some 300 pages on a ballot measure. You gather signatures without telling the truth. I asked your ballot signatures questions. They didn't know nothing, and neither did the public that's signing it. Why don't you tell the people the true cost of the homes? I would guess 1.5 million. Are you going to add 10 or 50,000 to the price like our other builder in Evergreen in the final signing? It seems that you're going to have us taxpayers pay for your water, sewage, and other necessary services that will be needed. Did you serve our country? I served as an Air Force brat for 13 years. I was a Navy pilot for almost 10 years. I flew those Navy P-3s at Moffett. I'm both a senior citizen and a veteran, and I can't afford one of those homes. You would have to be a 5-star general married to a 4-star general and have a huge down payment to get into this thing. Besides, the GI Bill doesn't even go that high. I hope you folks have your bags packed on June 5th, because after the vote, you guys will have to have new plans.
Thank you, sir. And I believe those are all the members of the community who wanted to speak. If you did want to speak, feel free to fill out a yellow card. Is that everybody, Nicole? Okay. Okay, we'll return to council now. So first, I'd like to draw the council's attention to recommendations made in a memorandum of mine dated March 5th. Now, that memorandum has an old version of this charter amendment. Excuse me. And as you all recall, we verbally made a change on the dais that reflected new language in section 1902A, that last sentence, which reads today, notwithstanding the foregoing, this act shall not apply to the conversion of threatened employment lands to a designation of San Jose General Plan, public, quasi-public, or agriculture, or to proposed conversions of threatened employment lands for parks, public trails, public open space, or other public uses. So that's what we are considering today. That's the current language. I want to make sure that's clear to everyone because my memorandum is attached to a dated version of this charter amendment. I also want to clarify, because I think that there was a slide up there, and I want to make sure the slide is clarified for the record as well. And I'm turning now to Kim and Rosalind.
Yes, that's correct. So under bullet 2, conversion of employment lands 2, in addition to the 4 items there, we will add PQP and agriculture.
Okay. So this charter amendment does not in any way constrain the conversion of employment lands to those designations, those 6 designations. Okay. Any further clarification that staff or anybody wants to offer?
No, that's
Okay.
important.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so in that memorandum, I ask that the council will consider approving item 3.7 A, B, C, and G as outlined on the agenda for March 6th. Adopt a resolution of the City Council calling and giving notice for a special municipal election to be held on June 5th and submit a city charter amendment to the electors entitled An Act to Limit Urban Sprawl and the Fiscal Environmental Effects of Specified Development in Outlying Areas. And I ask that you authorize me to submit an argument in favor pursuant to the governing rules to be incorporated in the resolution calling for the election, and to submit a rebuttal argument in favor as well, and that we authorize the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis pursuant to the Elections Code, and authorize the city clerk to include the full text of the proposed city charter amendment in the June 5th voters sample ballot. So that is what I would ask my colleagues to consider. I'd like to now ask if Councilmember Arenas, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would, Mayor. So I wanted to say that and acknowledge that urban sprawl has destroyed our limited spaces and open spaces and hillsides, and I've seen it in my own backyard, and created gridlock on our freeways like I experienced this morning on 101 to 280. So residential development doesn't generate sufficient revenue, as our staff was making that point earlier, for infrastructure like services like roads and sewer and fire and police. So it should come to no surprise that we want to protect our general plan, we want to protect our environment, reduce that gridlock on freeways, and build in more friendly multimodal transportation. But as the saying goes, sprawling, sometimes sprawl happens. You can replace that word with something else, but sometimes it happens, right? And sometimes when it happens, if there's community engagement, it makes a difference, because then people know and can accept or knowingly accept what those conditions or those impacts will be, right? And so as an Evergreen resident, I wasn't engaged in a dialogue about this very same type of urban sprawl that will eventually create a deficit for services. My neighbors, they weren't informed and about the environmental and fiscal impacts that this additional urban sprawl will have. We would have liked to have been invited to a meeting, at least one. And I appreciate Brian, one of the speakers, and you acknowledged our city transparencies. We've had 3 meetings so far. I think that's 3 meetings more than the process that I'm referring to. So we would have liked to have had a meeting, some input about this housing development, especially around the housing development referring itself as Evergreen Senior Housing Development, so that we can express concerns, the same concerns that we are expressing now, to talk about community benefits and to ultimately decide together whether we wanted to see it on the ballot. So my residents did get an invitation. You got 51 invitations to 51 different meetings in a course of 4 years to develop a general plan in our Envision San Jose 2040. And I'm glad to hear that we have a huge fan out there in District 8 of this plan. And we all worked out strategies and a plan on how to achieve the balance of the jobs to housing ratio. So this has already been discussed. We've already, the housing element of the general plan, we've identified and designated 120,000 dwelling units. So this charter amendment is simply protecting that general plan and its existing policies and the process this city, along with residents such as myself and the ones that showed up here and all of our advocates, we're just protecting that process that already happened. So this Charter Amendment Act supports the objective of the general plan to increase the job creation by 380,000 jobs by 2040. So we already have a plan, and we're working our way towards it. And so we're putting it to the vote of the community. We're giving the community a chance to say, do you want to defend your general plan and all the efforts and investment that you already made in the last years? So we're asking residents, we're checking in with them with this Charter Amendment Act as well. So we're going to provide protections that the general plan already spells out, and it's clear that these protections need to be in our charter as well. So I am going to make a motion, and I'm going to read all of all the recommendations in the mayor's memo, just so that it's on the record. So if you can bear with me. The recommendation is, my motion includes recommendation in mayor's memo to approve item 3.7 A, B, C, and G as outlined on council agenda for March 6, 2018. 2, adopt a resolution of the city council calling and giving notice on its own motion for a special municipal election to be held on June 5th, 2018, to submit a city charter amendment to the electors of the city of San Jose titled, an act to limit urban sprawl and the fiscal and environmental effects of specified development in outlying areas, and attached herewith. 3, authorize the mayor to submit an argument in favor of the city charter amendment by March 13, 2018, in the June 5th, 2018 voters sample ballot, pursuant to Elections Code Section 9282, to be incorporated in the resolution calling the election, and submit a rebuttal argument in favor of the city charter amendment by March 20th, 2018, in the June 5th, 2018 voter sample ballot pursuant to Elections Code Section 9285 to be incorporated in the resolution calling the election. 4, authorize the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis by March 20th, 2018 pursuant to the Elections Code Section 9280. And 5, authorize the city clerk to include the full text of the proposed city charter amendment in the June 5th, 2018 voter sample ballot to be incorporated in the resolution calling the election, as well as the changes to the 1902 section. And I don't have that language in front of me, but how could we deal with this, Ed, so that it's in the record?
I can. Also, the revised resolution is on the clerk's website for this item, and it is redlined. So, you know, we can accept the revised resolution there, but I will also read it in the record. Let me get it out here. It is the last sentence in section 1902A, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Notwithstanding the foregoing, this act shall not apply to the conversion of threatened employment lands to a designation of San Jose General Plan public, quasi-public, or agriculture, or to proposed conversions of threatened employment lands for public parks, public trails, public open space, or other public uses. Yes. That's my motion. That replaces the last.
And Ed,
Yes, Councilmember Reyes, I also wanted to point out that attached to the resolution was a CEQA determination that was attached, and want to make sure that the City Council concurs in that determination, and so I wanted to know if that was part of your motion as well.
Including that, yes.
and Ed, perhaps could you read that in the record, relating to the CEQA issue, so everyone's clear?
The fact that the council has considered the CEQA determination that is attached to resolution as Exhibit B, and the City Council concurs in that determination.
Okay, so that's part of your motion.
Great. So, I'll accept the revised resolution, including all of this language that we just read into the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second on that motion? Okay, motion and second. Councilmember Camus?
Mayor, forgive me, I'm just asking in regard to the last question that was, the last sentence that was added as of yesterday.
It was a couple days ago.
A couple days ago, I
1902.
apologize.
Yeah.
A couple days ago. That sentence, does it now make it easier for the conversion of employment lands to open space and farms? Is it, I don't want to convert these lands to anything.
Michael,
No, it does not. Actually, we have a whole breadth of general plan policies that continue to hold to maintain those employment lands and discourage conversion of those employment lands to other uses,
Including open space. So why was the line added then?
Yeah.
Councilmember Veritadara from the City Attorney's Office. Recall that this ballot measure adds another layer of inquiry in terms of the fiscal analysis that's required. And then if the council still would like to approve a residential development, for example, they have to provide the affordable housing and other items that are listed. What this means is that conversions of employment land to other uses, other than, you know, the ones that are enumerated, like the open space, public uses, would go through our regular general plan process, would have to go through CEQA, would have to go through the usual process that you're accustomed to.
But basically, you're saying that if you convert it to open land, you won't be required to build housing.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to understand that thoroughly.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Or
that.
do the
Thank you.
fiscal analysis.
Thank you.
Okay. And to clarify, it simply doesn't make it any harder, but it also doesn't make it easier.
correct?
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, then I believe we will vote on the motion. Oh, Councilmember, yep.
So if I could just make a friendly amendment to the motion, is just one, to add to advocate for the Oxford comma after Coyote Valley. In the, are we?
And you're referring to?
Sorry, the ballot question. Shall San Jose, whatever. Is that on the floor?
Could we
no?
put that on the screen so everybody can look at the same thing?
Do you have the, I don't think you have the ballot.
Is this not on the floor? This is not up for discussion. We're discussing this.
It's in
If
the
you give me a
resolution.
few minutes, I can print it and then grab it and then put it on the screen.
Well, yeah. So all I'm looking at is broadly including Almaden Valley, Coyote Village, and Evergreen Foothills in the ballot question.
Coyote Valley, you mean?
Coyote Valley. I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting.
Tony, it's in the ballot resolution. Okay.
Okay. So I think it would be best for all of us to be looking at the same text
Okay.
if we're doing any wordsmithing here.
But so if I'll just keep talking though. So just my toss in an Oxford comma before the and in between Coyote Valley, but also just to suggest for consideration and to give the mayor full discretion to make the final determination. But it seems to me that it might be more persuasive, a stronger language to persuade voters if we talked more about protecting future job growth, as opposed to restrict development of non-employment uses, because I'm not certain that to the layperson or average voter resonates as well as talking about protecting future job growth.
And I share the concerns about how the average voter how much they may know or not know about the general plan. I think the concern is that we have to stay true to the actual text and the actual result of this measure should it pass. And so, I'd be happy to insert lots of stuff, but I think it's fair to say the attorneys would tell us, you've got to put in front of the voters exactly what you're doing. And we know some of this is planning language, and hopefully we're doing as good a job as we can explaining it, both in the measure itself as well as in the ballot argument.
Okay, well that's fine. I just want to toss it out there as a thought, but that's my only comment. That and the Oxford comma.
So the comma that you seek would be after Coyote Valley.
Correct.
I have no objection to that. Doesn't trip us into any excess
No,
lines?
I like Oxford commas. It's fine.
I don't even know what an Oxford comma is, but
it's the one at the end of the list.
I'll ask the maker of the motion if she would be willing to include the comma after Coyote Valley.
And if Vera, you like Oxford commas, we will include the Oxford comma in there.
Henceforth, it will be called the Coyote Valley comma.
All right.
There you go. From here on, read that into the record.
Any other ideas, suggestions? Okay. All right, then on the motion, let's vote. Okay, that measure passes. That vote passes. So this charter amendment will be going to the voters. Yes, we now have open forum. Anyone like to speak in open forum? If not, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.